Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. In today's episode, we're going to be doing one of my favorite Italian desserts, which is called frappe. And this is a dessert that my mom used to make a lot when I was a kid. And they're sort of like fried cookies, and they're very similar to what you would find at a fair. They're kind of in between beignets and churros, but they're a little bit less crispy, and yeah, they only need a couple of ingredients. It's not too sweet either, so we'll say it's a healthy dessert, and they're done pretty darn fast. So in order to make these frappe, the ingredients that you're going to need are 2 cups of flour, 1 baking powder bag, 3 eggs, 2 spoonfuls of sugar, a bit of vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, and then add 50 grams of room temperature butter. And that's about it. As I told you guys, there's not that many ingredients for this recipe. It really can literally be made in less than 1 hour, so let's start cooking. Add 2 cups of flour to the bowl, followed by 1 whole bag of baking powder. The one I use is 15 grams. Then add 3 whole eggs. For this type of recipe, you can use the white and yellow of the egg. There's no need to separate them. This is why I consider this recipe simple. Once the eggs are in the bowl, add 2 spoonfuls of sugar. I use brown cane sugar, but white sugar works just as well. Next, add a spoonful of vanilla extract, and finally a pinch of salt. Now that we have the initial ingredients in the bowl, we can start mixing it with a spoon, and then we're just going to mix it lightly. We're not going to mix it completely because later on we're going to actually use our hands to mix the rest of it, and we still need to add some butter, but this initial mix makes everything easier for later on. As mentioned, the initial mix should be done with a spoon. We're not trying to get all the ingredients perfectly blended at this point, but just enough so that the ingredients combine with each other slowly. Once mixed slightly, add 4 tablespoons of room temperature butter and break it down slightly with a spoon. Once broken down, I recommend using one's hands in order to mix the whole thing. It does take a little bit of work, but eventually it'll start blending all together and become much more malleable. Now that we've blended all of the ingredients together, well, you're going to end up with a small ball of batter like this one. And as you can tell, it's kind of pliable, it's not too hard, but it's also firm in a way where it doesn't flake. And what we're going to do with this ball of batter is put it back in the bowl, and then we're going to cover it like this, and then we're going to put it in the fridge for 30 minutes in order to let the batter cool down. It is important to leave the batter in the fridge for at least 30 minutes, as it makes the batter a little bit more sturdy and pliable once we decide to flatten it down and make the cookie shapes out of it. Now that we've taken the bowl out of the fridge and the batter has cooled down for 30 minutes, well, take the cover off of the bowl, and what we're going to do is put some flour on the counter, and we're gonna try to flatten as much as possible the batter. Flattening the dough is actually the hardest part of the recipe. It does take a little bit of time and some elbow grease in order to make it nice and thin. I do recommend using a rolling pin in order to make the dough nice and flat. If you see that the dough is starting to stick to the roller, don't hesitate to sprinkle a bit more flour. The shape of the dough on the counter isn't too important because we're going to be cutting strips out of it, so mostly focus on getting it as thin as possible. Once that is done, take a knife and cut long strips in the dough. If you feel that the strips are going to be too long, make another cut in the middle. Once the dough is completely cut, peel off a strip and you can start folding the dough in the shape of a frappe cookie. Do that for the remainder of the dough. Some strips might be too short to fold, so feel free to be creative with the shape. After all, cooking is about creativity, and sometimes it's okay to bend the rules. In the end, the taste will be the same. Now that the frappe are on the plate and in the right shape, well, the next step to this recipe is to actually fry these suckers, and then we'll be ready to eat them. And trust me, this is a really easy step. All you have to do is wait for the batter to become nice and golden, and then take it out of the frying pan, and we'll be good. Turn your stove to high or close to it, and then pour some oil in a pan. Before adding the frappe inside the oil, be sure to let it heat up to boiling temperature. A good trick to see if it's boiling is to submerge a wooden spoon and see if little bubbles are forming. If they are, the oil is ready to fry. Now that the oil is hot enough, add the frappe little by little. When doing this, be careful not to have the oil bubble too much and overflow. The frappe mixture tends to create bubbles, so either having a high pot or putting just enough oil to cover the dough as they fry in the pot is perfect. Leave the dough to fry in the pot until slightly golden, and then take them out. This process is really quick and should only take a minute or 2. As a small tip, the best way to scoop the frappe out of the pot is to use a small metal strainer, and once that is done, place them on a plate. Finally, use a small strainer and sprinkle a bunch of powdered sugar on top of the frappe. This will add just the right amount of sweet to make them a wonderful dessert. Wow, look at these frappe. Aren't they delicious looking? And it's such a simple recipe. I told you guys it would only be a few ingredients, and I must say that the ingredients are pretty darn healthy. There's nothing that's too sweet, there's not too much, not too little. It's, I'll say, a pretty healthy Italian dessert. Well, I really hope that you guys enjoyed following this recipe, and if you did enjoy it, well, please be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment too. Let me know how your recipe came out. Let me know if there's maybe other recipes I should try, and maybe I could make a video about it. Okay, well, that's it. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.